I had that was the time together. Oh.
Sorry, can I help you?
Yes, Craig Ambrose.
Who?
Craig Ambrose.
Greg Ambrose, and can I ask who's calling?
Beverly. NJTPA.
Okay.
Hey, Beverly.
Okay, you're all set.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you.
You don't hear that? Okay. Well, I don't want to blast everybody.
Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Check.
The audio go. You are reaching. Yeah. I hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Gerald. Byron. Brian, right? Byron. People with glasses I can't see, that's scary.
Testing. Check. Check. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just. When he follows up like.
Hey, good morning. I came straight to the
Okay, okay.
parking lot, walking home. They don't. I saw that. That just. All right.
Can you give? Okay. That,
No problem.
Testing. Testing
I
1
don't know.
2.
No, leave it, because I don't know
Check.
either.
Check. Testing 1 2.
I have to be ready. Crazy, right?
There's a lot of.
I really honestly don't know if he's coming. He might.
Yeah,
Um,
you never know. I think I just.
And then or yeah.
How are you? Boy. Hi, how are you? How are you doing? How are you? One of these. Where's Neil? Oh, how are you, sir? Morning, morning, how are you doing? Morning, how are you? Hmm?
Power line was down for a minute.
If you see anybody, just let me know. Super the off switch. Got it. Even when you say under the breath about somebody else next to you. Hope to get out of here by 7:45, hopefully. Just gotta be in a
Testing, testing, 1, 2, check, 1, 2,
I can run and
check,
catch a
1,
train
2,
easily.
testing.
Peter? On my glasses. Yeah. Okay. I guess we can start, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think, yeah, we got it. Let's get started because.
Yeah, let me just start sending that to you, and I don't know
Okay.
why. We will,
What up, Phil? Morning. Okay. So we're gonna separate or what?
I'm sorry.
Sure. So we have a test card right over there.
You Neil?
You guys are here. Now,
Kinda in the way.
oh, 40s. It's ready. Or maybe if they can move it.
Or is it intern in
Good morning and welcome to the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority's May 13th meeting of the Board of Trustees. Before we get started, I want to also welcome my colleague, Peter Palmer, who's here with us again, and I always enjoy you joining us, sir. Thank you so much. As a reminder to all members, the microphones around the board table are very sensitive, and this meeting is being taped and webcast. I also like to note that Craig Ambrose from the governor's office is joining us by phone today. Welcome, Craig. Now, to start the meeting, I'll ask Beverly Morris to read the Open Public Meetings Act. Beverly?
This is to advise that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been forwarded to the Newark Star Ledger, the Asbury Park Press, the Courier News, the Daily Record, the Home News Tribune, the Jersey Journal, and the New Jersey Herald. It was posted in the Essex County Hall of Records in Newark and on the bulletin board of the Lieutenant Governor in Trenton.
Thank you. Would everybody please join me in saluting and honoring our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beverly, please clarify for me, do we normally have a roll call at this time, or no? It's not in my minutes, but
Yes, we do.
we do. Okay, well, let's go through a roll call, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Beverly.
Bergen,
Present, none voting.
Essex,
Present.
Hudson,
Present.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Present.
Middlesex.
Here.
Monmouth,
Present, non-voting.
Morris,
Yes, here.
Newark,
Here.
Ocean, Passaic, Somerset,
Present.
Sussex,
Here.
Union,
Present?
Warren,
Here.
Governor's Office,
Present by telephone.
NJDOT,
Here.
NJ Transit, Port Authority,
Here.
Citizens Representative.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have 17 voting members present and a quorum.
Thank you, Beverly, very much. The next item here is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes of the March 11 board meeting? Would you kindly show Freeholder Bartlett in presence, please?
Thank you.
Seeing no one, let me ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Morris, so moved.
Thank you, Freeholder.
Second, 100.
And 100 seconds. Thank you so much, Freeholder. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So we have Morris and Hunterdon.
We have a roll call, please.
Essex,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex.
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Abstain.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Abstain.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Thank you very much. We now go into the chairman's remark. I would like to take this opportunity to present my report. Once again, thank you all for coming this morning to this morning's meeting. I know that has been a challenge for many due to the weather, but thank God we're all here, and I thank you all for coming out. First, I'd like to announce some good news. Following last fall on-site review, the NJTPA has received its certification from the Federal Transportation and Highway Administration. This means that the NJTPA transportation planning process meets and/or exceeds most federal planning requirements, and in fact, we received several commendations of our work in various areas. I should also note, however, that the certification reports include one corrective action concerning certain documentation requirements and related issues concerning Title VI. Work by NJTPA staff to address this concern is already well underway. Our certification remains conditional until this correction action is addressed. Executive Director Mary Amin will speak more about the certification review results in her report. Now, back to today's meeting. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from our guest speaker today, Amit Bose, President of the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor. The coalition's memberships shows just how important the Northeast Corridor is to our region, our national economy, in addition to transportation business, and coalition includes other private sector employers, major universities, nonprofits throughout the corridor. You'll hear much more about the coalition. That's its important message in a little bit. The timing for today's presentation is excellent. the Northeast Corridor and the Gateway Program, and key projects like the Portal Bridge and Hudson River tunnels are getting more and more attention every day, not just from New Jersey, but from the nation. That includes Congress. In fact, just over a week ago, the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee held a field hearing on the future of the Hudson River Tunnel and Portal Bridge projects at the Port Authority offices in Manhattan. I was pleased to have the opportunity to attend the hearing, and I'd like to thank Freeholder John Bartlett for joining me as well. 3 members of the New Jersey delegation participated: Congressman Malinowski, Congressman Payne, and Congresswoman Sherrill. The hearing was an important reminder that this issue is getting more national attention. The session was held by Congressman Peter DeFazio of Oregon, who chairs the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. New York Representative Nita Lowey, who chairs the all-important House Appropriations Committee, also participated, as well as other members of the T&I Committee. All agreed that these critical infrastructure projects should not be treated like pawns in a political chess game. Congressman DeFazio in particular has repeatedly noted that this is much more than just a New Jersey or New York project. It is a project critical to our national economy and even our national security. In fact, while in New York, Representative DeFazio said that the next authorization bill will include specific projects of national significance and that the Hudson River tunnels and Portal Bridge will be one of those in that list. He also said he'll support legislation declaring that the tunnel's record of decision, which is currently stalled with the U.S. Department of Transportation, is completed. He noted Congress has taken steps with other projects in the past. Of course, the big question is funding. The Appropriations Chairwoman Lowey vowed her committee's support to find the dollars for these projects, and inclusion in both the new transportation bill and the appropriations bill would be very significant. However, Congress and the President would still need to come on agreement on exactly when and how to get this critical, important work moving. There are recent signs of progress in infrastructure talks between members of the Congress and the President, but there are still many unanswered questions. There certainly will be much more to come on Gateway and related projects. The NJTPA will continue to monitor the situation and report to the committees on board, and the board, of course. And finally, I should note that there is one more reason for the timing is the excellence for today's presentation. Once again, it is Infrastructure Week. Every year, a diverse and nonpartisan coalition brings together business, workers, elected leaders, and citizens to advocate for the renewal of America's roads, bridges, rails, and ports, as well as water, power, and communications infrastructure. As you all see, for many items on today's agenda, we're certainly doing our part for infrastructure this week. This includes approval of transportation alternatives and safe routes to school projects, as well as the funding action to keep projects moving. In fact, I think it's safe to say that every week is Infrastructure Week at the NJTPA. And for that, I thank you. Okay, NJDOT, do you have any remarks for today? Thank you. New Jersey Transit, any remarks for today? Very quiet in that side of the room. I don't know what's going on. All right. And next, we'll listen to the Executive Director report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Estrada, and good morning, everyone. It's been a busy couple of months since our last board meeting. And as the Chairman has announced, we're pleased to have received our certification from the Federal Transit Administration and the Federal Highway Administration regarding our metropolitan planning process. This report follows last fall's on-site review of our work. Overall, the report gives us high marks for our work and for the board's support and involvement in the planning process. we are very proud to have received 6 commendations recognizing our Unified Planning Work Program development process and the internal controls we have in place, our transparency on projects resulting from Notice, which is NJTPA's online project information system, and our year-end obligation reports, our development of a searchable database known as PRIME used for studies and their recommendations, our freight planning expertise and for coordination of freight planning at the state and local levels, and our support for transportation technology deployment. The certification review report also included several recommendations for improving our planning process. I'm happy to say many of these have either already been addressed or are in the works. As the chairman has also noted, our certification review report did include one corrective action that we need to take concerning our Title VI and civil rights compliance. The report points to the need for us to more formally document the activities we do that meet Title VI requirements on an ongoing basis. Please note that we are already developing our Title VI program implementation plan, which we expect to submit to the board for approval this fall. Meanwhile, we will be taking other interim steps to address this compliance issue, and of course, we will continue our work to reach diverse and underserved communities through our outreach efforts, and to ensure that all of our procurement practices are inclusive with respect to minority and disadvantaged business enterprises. I should note also that the certification review commented favorably on our effective coordination with neighboring MPOs in the state and in the larger metropolitan region. For example, just last week, we participated in one of our periodic MPO collaboration meetings with representatives from our federal partners, NJDOT, New Jersey Transit, and all 3 New Jersey MPOs. We also continue to actively coordinate with 9 MPOs from New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania through the Metropolitan Area Planning, or MAP Forum. Tomorrow, the MAP Forum's multi-state freight working group will meet here, and the full MAP Forum spring meeting will be held on June 20th in New Haven, Connecticut. All are welcome to attend both of these events, either in person or via WebEx. Turning now to our pedestrian safety campaign, I'm delighted to share our new Street Smart New Jersey branding with you. Please see the signs in the back of the room for a glimpse of that new branding. Our new overall theme is simple but incredibly important. Drive smart, walk smart, be street smart. Related messages include: we stop for people, we slow down for safety, we use crosswalks, and we look before crossing. The new materials are intended to be more inclusive and to convey that each and every one of us has a responsibility to help make our transportation system safer for all users. We also have several new corporate sponsors that will help us spread these important safety messages, including the New Jersey Devils, ShopRite, and others. You'll be seeing and hearing more about that at future meetings. Work also continues to support TMA-led campaigns in several towns, including Point Pleasant Borough, Plainsboro, and Morristown. NJTPA staff is working with the Division of Highway Traffic Safety to develop campaigns in Elizabeth, Linden, New Brunswick, and Trenton. On May 15th, we'll be participating in a campaign kickoff in Elmwood Park, and we're working with partners on Long Beach Island for the June 26th kickoff of our Summer Shore campaign. With all of these activities, I'm proud to report that we're nearing our initial goal of 100 partner communities. As always, for more information or to get more involved, please go to our recently updated website, bestreetsmartnj.org. Street Smart, along with other important NJTPA programs, were featured at this year's New Jersey Transaction Conference held in Atlantic City back in mid-April. I would like to thank Chairman Estrada and Freeholder DiFilippo for moderating NJTPA-led panels on such diverse topics as the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority safety programs, our sub-regional studies, and the Transit Hub pilot program. Other sessions that included NJTPA staff focused on future trends in technology, the State Transportation Innovation Council, federal policy and funding, real-time data, and federally funded project development. And just this past week, our personnel staffed the NJTPA booth at the New Jersey Association of Counties conference, which several of you also attended. One final event I want to mention is the Interactive American Logistics Aid Network disaster recovery simulation that we hosted last month. Fielder Kenny welcomed the participants and took part in the exercise. Simulations like this aim to help improve resiliency, which is a key goal of our long-range plan. As usual, there's much more to report in terms of recent central staff activities, but in the interest of time, I'll refer you to the highlights section in your meeting books. We're happy to provide additional information on any items you find there or any other items of interest. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. The next part is the committee report. At this time, I now call Freeholder Kathy DeFilippo, the chair of the Project Prioritization Committee, to give the committee report. Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to report on the activities of the Project Prioritization Committee. At the April joint meeting, the committee considered 5 actions. 4 of these items involve amendments to the current Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, and are on today's agenda. The first action involves a set of minor amendments that will add federal funds to 3 projects, 2 of which are currently programmed with state funds as follows. The Route 15 southbound bridge over the Rockaway River project in Morris County is part of a federal multi-solicitation list and must have the following future phases of work programmed with $11 million in federal funding. Designed in fiscal year 2019, right-of-way in 2021, and construction in 2022. For the Route 46 Canfield Avenue project, also in Morris County, design can be authorized earlier than planned, so $1 million in federal funds will be added for this phase of work in fiscal year 2019, as well as $300,000 for the right-of-way in 2021 and $4.6 million for construction in 2022. The third project, the FREC Access Road Bridge over Toms River in Ocean County, also can be authorized earlier than planned. So $1.1 million in federal funds will be added for design in fiscal year 2019, $100,000 for right-of-way in 2020, and $3.5 million for construction in 2021. This is listed as action item number 1 on today's agenda. The next item is a set of amendments that add Service Transportation Block Grant Program funds to the TIP for 3 projects that are advancing towards authorization as follows. The first one, for the County Route 508 or Central Avenue Bridge over the city subway in Newark, $500,000 will be added for preliminary engineering in fiscal year 2019. $3 million for design in 2021, and $1 million for right-of-way in 2023, and $20 million for construction in 2024. Second one, for the County Route 571, Garden State Parkway Interchange 83 Improvements project in Ocean County. $1 million will be added for preliminary engineering in fiscal year 2019, $1.5 million for design in 2021, and $800,000 for the right-of-way in 2023, and $5.9 million for construction in 2024. The next one, for the County Route 652 or 6th Avenue Bridge over the Passaic River in Passaic County, $500,000 for preliminary engineering will be added in fiscal year 2019. $3 million for design in 2021, and $300,000 for the right-of-way in 2023, and $15 million for construction in 2024. Funding for these projects has been made available from resources in the local preliminary engineering and NJTPA future project program. This is action item number 2. The third action item concerns the Bayonne Commuter Ferry Pier and Dock Improvements Project. The project has received $657,000 federal Transit Administration Passenger Ferry Grant, which must be amended into the TIP. The funds will be used for improvements to the ferry pier and dock. Funding for completing the project, including a ferry terminal, will be provided by the City of Bayonne using Urban Enterprise Zone funds, developer contributions, and Special Improvement District Fund. Next, the committee considered approval of the air quality conformatory determination for the 2018-2021 TIP and Plan 2045. The EPA recently established more stringent ozone standards for the region and required the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to develop new ozone budgets in the state implementation plan. The North New Jersey Air Quality Conformatory Determination document before us today demonstrates that implementation of projects in both the current TIP and Plan 2045 will help meet these budgets and the conformity requirements for ozone. This is listed as action item number 4. Please note that a separate conformatory determination will be required for the new TIP that will come before the board in September. The committee also considered a modification to the current TIP that adds $32.4 million in federal funds to the bridge deck superstructure replacement program for 6 projects. They include the Route 15 bridge over Main Street in Sussex County, the Cabin Point Road National Storage Bridge in Hudson County, the Route 78 bridges over Route 202-206, and the Washington Valley Road in Somerset County. The Rattlesnake Bridge Road Bridge over Route 78 in Somerset County, and the Old Newark Compton Turnpike Bridge over Route 202 and Route 23, and the Route 23 bridges over the NYS&W Railroad in Passaic County. The committee approved this modification and no further action is required. Finally, last Monday, the committee convened a special telephone conference call to consider approval of the 2018 Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program and the Safe Routes to School Program. The Transportation Alternative Set-Aside provides federal funds for community-based projects designed to strengthen the culture, aesthetic, and environmental aspects of the nation's intermodal system. 16 projects totaling nearly $14 million have been selected for this funding. In addition, New Jersey has opted to continue its Safe Routes to School program with Transportation Alternative Set-Aside funding, and 11 projects totaling $5.8 million have been selected for this program. This is action item number 5. That completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move to number 1, which is the minor amendment to the FY 2018-2021 TIP as requested by the NJDOT to add federal, there will be a time for you for asking questions, not at this moment, sir, thank you. To add federal funds to 3 projects in the NJTPA region. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion, Passaic.
Passaic motions, second.
Second, Sussex.
Sussex, thank you. Sussex, seconds, thank you. Have a tongue twister today. Any comments from the board members? Any comments from members of the public on this particular item? There'll be a mic coming over to you for your comments.
I'm Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor. Okay, and my question in general is, why are we widening more roads and adding interchanges when the IPC has warned we have 10 years or we are literally cooked? Okay, last session, I was not here to comment on it, but I know it personally. It's 2 miles from my house. 12303 Route 10 eastbound widening for Route 202 to Route 53. There is no need for this study. First off, we have the greatly underutilized Morris Essex Rail, which is still suffering from cuts of 18 trains per day, all to Hoboken, which provides an alternate to the Midtown tunnels. Second, we have the Morris Erie line from Morristown, with one branch to East Hanover on Route 10, and another branch almost fully tracked to Rosedale. The branch from Morristown to East Hanover parallels Route 10, which has already seen dense transit-oriented development on the north side of Route 10 from Whippany to East Hanover, and could provide alternate transportation to Bear and Whippany, Novartis and East Hanover, Target, Costco, the AMC Theater, the Funplex, all within walking distance of a station behind Target and Costco. The Morris Erie line was listed way back in 2001 by Jeff Ward's study of rail rights-of-way in New Jersey Transit's Vision 2020 plan developed under Governor Christie Whitman. Frank Riley, you know him, everybody knows him probably, former head of Morris DOT, considered this line for light rail or commuter line years ago, but 20 years ago this area was not considered dense enough. It is now. When are we going to stop endless widening of highways for millions of dollars and get serious about green transit, which we need to survive peak oil and climate change?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Any other comments from anyone in the audience?
I have a question. As a board member, this is Jared.
Yes.
Citizens Rep.
Yes.
Do we take CO2 emissions into account when approving projects or putting projects into the hopper?
Well, I personally believe that that's part of the evaluation process in terms of the environmental side of it. So let me get somebody else to approve it. I believe that's how it works. All of these projects.
It is part of the air quality considerations, yes. CO2 emissions?
Yes. Is there any other comments or questions from the board?
Can we clarify which item the comments were
It's
related
number one.
to?
Oh, okay, hold on. Which particular part of because this is a project that the DOT has asked us for federal funds. It's a total of 3 projects. You were talking about the second one, is that correct?
Well, the first one, I think that the approach we have to take to be
I understand. The question is simple.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3. Which of the projects are you referring about?
1.
Number 1. Okay, sir, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would any other comments, questions, or anything else? Okay, I thank you. Beverly, could you please move to a roll call, please?
Sure. Essex?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hunterdon?
Yes.
Jersey City?
Yes.
Middlesex?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Newark?
Yes.
Passaic?
Yes.
Somerset?
Yes.
Sussex?
Yes.
Union?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Governor's Office?
Yes.
NJDOT?
Yes.
NJ Transit?
Yes.
Port Authority?
Yes.
Citizens Representative?
Abstain.
The motion is approved.
Thank you very much. Number 2 is a minor amendment to the FY 2018-2021 TIP as requested by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority to add federal funds to 3 local projects. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Moved, Hunterdon.
Thank you. It was moved by,
Hunterdon County.
yeah, Hunterdon County.
West of you. Alton City, yeah.
That's too far west. Hunterdon County, does anybody want to second this motion?
Essex.
Essex moves, thank you so much. Any comments from the member of the board in reference to item number 2? I see none, okay. Any comments from the members of the audience? See none, so Beverly, would you please move to the roll call, please?
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex.
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Number 3 is a minor amendment to the FY 2018-2021 TIP to add the Bayonne Commuter Ferry Pier and Dock Improvement Project as requested by the City of Bayonne. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion, Hudson.
Hudson motions.
Second, Passaic.
Passaic seconds. Now, any comments from the board members?
Question.
Okay, I see.
Sorry, question. This is Jared Rodriguez. Who is the ferry operator?
In terms, I don't believe that there's one listed, is there? Or I guess the request is not about who the ferry operator is, but rather the action of the city's request, which they will in turn build the terminal as well. Okay, you can answer the question. It's an easy one. C Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that we got the board comments, any comments from the member of the public about this particular item? Seeing none. Beverly, would you please move for roll call, please?
Essex.
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Item number 4 is the quality conformity determination on the FY 2018 to 2021 TIP and Plan 2045 for the new 2008 ozone NAAQS. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion, Somerset?
Thank you, Somerset.
Morris will second it.
Morris will second. Is there any comments from any board member about item number 4? Okay. Any comments from the members of the public on this particular item? I haven't seen any comments from either side, so therefore, Beverly, would you please go for a roll call?
Essex.
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex.
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit, Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. The item number 5 is the approvals of projects for the 2018 Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program and Safe Routes to School Program. And may I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion, Sussex.
Thank you, Sussex.
Second,
Morris will
Hunterdon.
second it.
Give it over to a good friend from Morris.
Okay, Kathy Formaris seconds that. We can give him a joint movement on this side, a second. Is there any? Very good. Is there any questions from the members of the board about item number 5? Are there any questions from the audience on item number 5? Okay, I don't see any questions or any comments, so therefore, Beverly, could we please move for a vote on this particular roll call on this item?
Essex,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex.
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
That was a yes, sorry.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very, very much. I will call on Freeholder John Bartlett, Chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, to give the committee's report. John, you're on.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and happy National Infrastructure Week. On Thursday, Passaic County's Economic Development Unit is going to be hosting a panel on economic development and infrastructure in our region, and I want to thank NJDOT as well as the City of Passaic and UPS for contributing panelists' time and expertise to that interesting program coming up Thursday at 8:30 in the morning at William Patterson University's Business School on Valley Road in Wayne. As for today, I'm pleased to report on the activities of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. At the April Joint Committee meeting, the committee considered one action item, support for transit asset management performance targets set by NJ Transit and PATH. The action responds to U.S. Department of Transportation rules implementing performance management requirements of the FAST Act and previous legislation. The rules require state DOTs and MPOs to conduct performance-based planning and programming by tracking several performance measures and setting data-driven targets for each measure. As you may recall, this board previously approved targets for safety, traffic congestion, pavement, bridges, travel time reliability, emissions, and freight. We now turn to transit asset management. Under the rules, the NJTPA is required to either support the transit agency's asset performance targets or establish its own. The NJTPA has coordinated with NJ Transit and the Port Authority on their respective targets for assets, including rolling stock, equipment, facilities, and infrastructure, and believes that these targets reflect the planning goals for the projects and programs of the Transportation Improvement Program and Plan 2045. At the meeting, representatives from NJ Transit and PATH briefed the committee on the targets. Note that since our committee meeting, based on updated or corrected data, NJ Transit made minor changes to a few of the numerical targets specified in the action summary. They do not substantively change the nature or intent of the targets that we will support with this resolution. The committee recommended approval of the proposed targets, and this is listed as action item 5, actually action item 6, I believe, on today's agenda. Also at the April joint meeting, central staff updated the committee on the state and region's progress related to electric vehicles, as discussed by the chairman. The NJTPA continues to provide technical assistance on EVs, including work with Middlesex County to identify appropriate locations for chargers and providing data from the 2018 greenhouse gas inventory to Metuchen. Staff will also soon be working with the City of Newark to help determine locations for chargers. Finally, staff updated the committee on the progress of 2 freight-related projects, which Freeholder Kenny will speak about shortly. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Freeholder. That will bring us to item number 6, support for transit asset management performance targets set by the New Jersey Transit Corporation, or New Jersey Transit, and the Port Authority Trent Hudson Corporation, PATH. And here's the attachment. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Hunterdon.
Hunterdon moves. Union County second. Okay, Okay. Are there any comments from any of the board members on this particular item? Anybody? Okay. Are there any comments from the member of the public on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, I would ask Beverly to please, let's go to a roll call.
Essex,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Hunterdon,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Port Authority,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you very much. You know, I should have a clarification point here because I know there was some questions or comments from the audience. I think that I need to ensure that at the beginning of the meeting, I make note that the 3 seconds will be allowed in terms of comments to the board. If there's any questions, then the chair actually checks the questions, make sure that something that we don't want to get involved in a long and process. So I just want to make that clarification so that nobody feels that I use my chairmanship's position to squelch anybody or hold back any comments. Comments are always welcomed. There are differences in terms of our ability to consider your comments because there's a process before anything gets to this committee or to this board for voting has gone through a different process that also has an opportunity for people to share their opinions. So therefore, I hope that I've been clear in terms of the time frame, which I didn't make this morning. And this is an open book. Anyone has the ability to state their opinions. Sometimes we may be able to do something about it. Sometimes we may not. The mere fact that you have an opinion does not mean that it's shared by everyone. But will definitely give the time to recognize differences of opinion. So all we need to agree is that we may sometimes disagree. Thank you very much. Next item is the Freight Initiative, and Freeholder Kenny, please.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you. I am pleased to report on the activities of the Freight Initiative Committee. The April meeting featured our annual update on freight rail in our region, where strong growth and demand for these services is prompting major rail investments and boosting our prospects for attracting new companies and jobs. That was a key insight delivered by 3 industry officials at the meeting. The first speaker was Timothy Tierney, President and COO of Conrail Shared Assets, which is jointly owned by Norfolk Southern and CSX. Conrail handles traffic to and from the port and the region for more than 200 customers and interfaces with 11 of the region's 15 smaller short-line railroads. Mr. Tierney said port and intermodal traffic grew 16% from 2017 to 2018. As a result, Conrail is investing $21 million in rail infrastructure upgrades. This includes the Waverly Loop project, which is set to go to construction next year. It will add another route for the rail freight in and out of the port. Another major project is the reconstruction of the No Point Bridge over the Passaic River, which is planned for construction in 2021. The next presenter was Ken Berenga, President and Managing Partner, Chesapeake and Delaware LLC, which operates 4 short-line rail services in our region. Last month, the company expanded operations on the Dover and Delaware River Railroad to over 109 route miles. This now includes the lease of the Washington Secondary Line from Norfolk Southern and trackage rights over several New Jersey Transit lines. The company is undertaking projects to improve the line to better serve existing customers and attract new ones. Of particular importance are upgrades needed to accommodate the national standard taller and heavier rail cars. These include addressing issues at the so-called hole-in-the-wall bridge in Phillipsburg, which is one of the NJTPA's first freight concept development projects. Other projects in the pipeline include upgrading interchanges and grade crossing. Third presenter was Dan Mulligan, Director of Sales and Marketing, Global Container Terminal. He noted that the Express Rail Port Jersey on dock rail facility became operational at half capacity in January and will be operating at full capacity with a total of 9,600 feet of track later this year. The new facility provides the terminal with significant cost and time savings for the service to the Midwest and reduces terminal-related truck traffic. The committee meeting also included a presentation by Richard Semick, Associate Vice President of HDR, on the NJTPA's Freight Rail Industrial Opportunity, also known as FRIO, border program, which is being finalized. HDR is NJTPA's consultant on the project. The study aims to foster collaboration among private and public entities to address impediments to national rail service to existing and potential customers in the NJTPA region. This study has included significant input and assistance from NJ Transit, the railroads, and the county. I'd just also like to take a moment and thank Ann and Jacob for putting together a very wonderful and informative program. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Freeholder. I appreciate it very much. Next is the federal policy update. And of course, we have our Freeholder, Matt Holt, who will be hosting us today with great information, I hope.
Chairman Estrada, thank you very much. Thank you also for your report on the Gateway Field hearing that was held at the Port Authority. I don't think there's anybody here that disagrees with the fact that the Portal Bridge and the Hudson Tunnel projects are critical to the future of our region, but also goes without saying that the same critical nature applies to the infrastructure in these projects as it relates to our entire country. You also mentioned in your opening remarks that there's a lot of talk about infrastructure in DC, and there absolutely is. On April 30th, there was a very high-level meeting with the President and with Democratic congressional leaders, and they announced that they had reached an agreement. You've all seen this in the news. They've reached an agreement with the administration on a $2 trillion infrastructure package. It is great news. Members of Congress that were involved characterized the meeting as very constructive. It is, however, as we all know, an agreement in principle. There are a lot of details that have to still be worked out. One of those, of course, and it's certainly a major detail, is how will we possibly fund this massive infrastructure investment. There is a future meeting that is being lined up to provide an opportunity for the administration to share its ideas for funding the $2 trillion package. I don't believe at this moment that any meeting date has been officially set, but it is progress within the transportation world. There are a lot of discussions on how to pay for the infrastructure, and they continue in Washington. That also it goes without saying that there are a large number of Congress members who still remain skeptical on how any agreement can be done. And certainly, I think it goes without saying politically that I would not expect any real decisions on this to occur before the 2020 presidential election. As I mentioned before, that is politics. On a somewhat more optimistic note, the House Appropriations Committee has set spending levels for fiscal year 2020 bills, and this includes $75.8 billion for the Transportation, Housing and Urban Development and Related Agency Subcommittee. And if this is approved, this is a significant increase over last year's funding levels. If it is approved, it provides an opportunity to preserve or possibly even expand the funds that are provided to the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, and that is absolutely critical to all of the work that we do here at NJTPA. Goes without saying, the process is just beginning. Staff is going to continue to monitor the progress on the infrastructure package and certainly the appropriations process, and they will be reporting back to our committees and to the board. Mr. Chairman, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Freeholder Holt. Great information. Next item is the Planning for 2050 presentation. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, Amit Bose, Vice President and Program Director for the NHTV, who joins us today in his capacity as the Chair of the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor. He has nearly 20 years of public sector experience serving in a variety of agencies, including the Federal Railroad Administration, where he was Deputy Administrator, the U.S. Department of Transportation, New Jersey Transit, New Jersey Transit, and New Jersey Department of Transportation. In his volunteer leadership role as chair of the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor Board, Amit brings outstanding legislative relationships, along with his knowledge of transit and rail, as well as regulatory and governmental affairs. He'll be talking with us today about making infrastructure everyone's #1 priority. Amit, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
Thank you, Executive Director, for welcoming the coalition here today. I'm here as the chair of the board of the coalition, and with me also is Mike Friedberg, who's the Executive Director. I have a long association with the NJTPA, now going on over 20 years. I started with Senator Menendez, my professional career, and have been really glad to be associated with NJTPA on transit, port, airport, road, NJ Transit, NJ DOT, and New Jersey Turnpike Authority projects. New Jersey's long history with passenger rail goes all the way back to the days of Cornelius Vanderbilt and the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. New Jersey's got a rich transportation history, whether it's the Turnpike Authority or the Gateway Program. We want to make infrastructure everybody's #1 priority. As we've talked about already, this is National Infrastructure Week, the week during the year annually when we pay even closer attention to infrastructure, especially down in Washington. And when it comes to Washington, I really want to commend the efforts of Governor Murphy, both Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, and your House delegation, which includes Congresswoman Sherrill, Congressman Pascrell, Congressman Sires, and really the whole congressional delegation for their support of the Northeast Corridor. Without them, I don't think we'd be as far along as we are. So with that, I'll go into my presentation here. So the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor represents a spectrum of transportation and business community stakeholders whose employees rely on the corridor. The Coalition's a regional and national advocacy effort led by market participants like HNTV and other companies, including Guardian Insurance. We also have the New Jersey League of Municipalities who are members, so it's a broad swath of members that we have, and we're always looking to add more. Our main goal is to have a strong and vibrant Northeast Corridor, and we are the end users ourselves. There was a gap in DC and Congress, and we didn't really hear from the private sector and businesses themselves. We heard a lot from governments and transit groups. Here's a listing of some of the coalition members right now, and we're growing. Recently, we just added our first real financial sector company, banking company, UBS. We're happy to have them on board. We also have a good contingent of universities and public institutions who are members, so we're thankful for that as well. In 2018, we had lots of successes from Congress with our efforts. We coordinated letters. We met with members of Congress, plenty, including the New Jersey delegation that I already mentioned. We met with House and Senate THUD appropriations and Transportation Infrastructure Committee and Senate Commerce Committees as well. One of the big programs, and I'll get to this in a moment, that we really strongly advocate for is the Federal-State Partnership for State of Good Repair. This is a program that was authorized by the FAST Act back in 2015, and Congress has funded the program ever since. We also have biennial fly-ins and meetings with other Northeast delegation members. A coalition member testified at last year's appropriations hearing in 2018, and again, we really emphasize that our members are from the private sector as well as public institutions, and we make sure the likes of me aren't the people testifying, but our members themselves, so that we can show the direct impacts that the corridor has on our members. And the big success that we had actually in 2019, of the fiscal year 2019 bill that should have been passed by September 30th of 2018, but was passed more recently in the beginning part of this year, was the appropriations law, and that included $400 million for the federal-state partnership that I just mentioned. And that was a big success for us. We also had meetings with senior Amtrak officials, as well as the Northeast Corridor Commission, with which we stay in close contact. And we've also done outreach activities with APTA, as I mentioned, during Infrastructure Week, and Railroad Day Hill activities that happen on an annual basis. We've also done a lot of media. Last year in particular, during a particular period at the beginning of the year, we did a lot of activity, and you can see some of the quotes that we got in to papers, as well as some more mass publications as well. Now, here is the crux of what we do, which is we try to continue and advance funding for the corridor. Here are some major programs that we have in the appropriations bill. Now, the reason that I point to the appropriations bill, even though we know authorization bills are out there, and we know that passenger rail now is a part of any surface transportation infrastructure bill, which is a big deal, which we were able to accomplish in the FAST Act. Right now, though, in Washington, a lot of the activity, a lot of the action that we heard from the freeholder earlier is in the appropriations world, and that's why these particular accounts are important and programs are important in the appropriations bill. Obviously, funding for Amtrak is primary. We also have funding within Amtrak for the Northeast Corridor in particular, a dedicated stream of funding for the Northeast Corridor, which is a really big deal and really shows to this region that there's a return of taxpayer dollars to the primary users themselves of the corridor. There's funding for the national network. And then there's the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, which is an important program that is sort of a collection of a lot of different smaller scale projects. And then, like I mentioned, the federal-state partnership for the state of good repair, which has gone in just 3 years from $25 million to $400 million. A pretty significant leap at a time when Washington really watches its purse strings. And then a more national effort, restoration and enhancement grants, is a smaller scale. The coalition really believes in continuing and strengthening partnerships. Like I said earlier, we have a strong partnership with Amtrak, the Northeast Corridor Commission, and groups like the Greater Washington Partnership, and, as I mentioned before, the New Jersey League of Municipalities. In terms of the Northeast Corridor Capital Investment Plan for fiscal years 2018 to 2022, we are strong proponents of it. The plan documents investments required over the next 5 years to reverse decades of deterioration and to modernize our shared national assets for future growth. Now, we talked about, and I'm glad that NJTP is paying particular attention to 2050. A real success for the coalition, obviously, would be to see some of the projects that I'm about to talk to completed by then, hopefully. The plan for the capital investment is focused on the Northeast Corridor main line, connecting corridors to Harrisburg, Spuyten Duyvil in New York, and Springfield, Massachusetts. The infrastructure supports a broader network of connecting corridors that feed additional Amtrak and commuter rail lines. And we at the coalition always remember that there are more users along the corridor than just Amtrak itself. And we know that the corridor really functions as a spine for these other activities that occur. And for the corridor to be successful, we know that these agencies need to deliver their services as strongly as possible. And that's why I showed you that chart just a few minutes ago of these programs, but one that's not on there that's really important, and everybody in this room, most people in this room are really familiar with, is the Capital Investment Grants Program that the Federal Transit Administration funds for big-scale projects like the Hudson River tunnels, like Portal Bridge. And we're big advocates for that program as well. Right here is a list of Northeast Corridor projects that are backlogged. See here, we've got projects in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Maryland. And we just highlighted these, but there are projects up and down the 8 states and the District of Columbia that make up the corridor and the over 400 miles of the spine. So here, I wanted to call out some specific projects. Obviously, everybody in this room is intimately familiar with the Gateway program. I just named 2 of the biggest projects within it, which is the Hudson River tunnels, as well as Portal Bridge. We know that there are other projects that make up that program, but today I just wanted to highlight in some other states some of the projects going on that if you use the corridor to ride down to Washington and beyond, you'll likely see and hear about. We've got Baltimore Penn Station. The total cost of that is around $43 million, and construction on that project, Amtrak has already started. A big one down near Baltimore also is the B&P Tunnel. This is a tunnel from 1873, believe it or not. It is a major project in Maryland for Amtrak. Susquehanna Bridge is another project that we have that is north of Baltimore that's important too. This is a movable bridge project that they're trying to replace with a fixed structure. So when you hear about Portal, it's not the only movable bridge that needs replacing on the corridor. Connecticut's got a whole host of bridge projects, primarily. They have just built a line to Springfield, Massachusetts. So 2 projects there are the Devon Bridge project, which is approximately $1.5 billion, and the Connecticut River Bridge. Both these bridges were built around the same time, pre-World War I, in the first decade of the 1900s, 1908 and 1909. Next, Massachusetts. They have a major effort underway with Boston South Station, and that effort got underway when I was at the Federal Railroad Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation, with high-speed intercity passenger rail dollars from the Recovery Act. And that act for New Jersey, that a lot of us remember, went to approximately $450 million to improve what we all up here know as the Raceway effort in between New Brunswick and Trenton that has some of the fastest speeds on the corridor. There's another station also in Massachusetts that's a smaller scale project on Route 128. Next, we have Pennsylvania. The big project going on in Pennsylvania, because the corridor touches specifically in Philadelphia, is the Philadelphia 30th Street Station project. Again, those of you who are regular users of the project or just use it occasionally have seen the effort underway there, and there's going to be a lot of activity there by Amtrak. Now, some of the broader scale initiatives that really impact riders up here, as well as along north of here and south, the Acela Express train sets that are under construction right now and going to be tested very shortly on a test bed out in Pueblo, Colorado. This is the next generation of Acela trains that have been around, believe it or not, for over 20 years. So it's time to replace them. And Amtrak is going to have state-of-the-art trains for use. Now, we're going to have state-of-the-art trains, but they're going to be on 19th, 20th century infrastructure, right? So we need to upgrade what they run on. In addition to that, Amtrak is about to go out very shortly with replacements for their regional train sets. Again, those are close to 40 years old, those train sets. So that would be a big, big upgrade for the users of the system. And I just wanted to point out the Acela train set replacement, as well as 50th Street Station, parts of that, both those are financed by the Railroad Rehabilitation Improvement Program, RIF. This is an important source of funding where the federal government encourages local sponsors to leverage funding for it and to use federal dollars, state dollars, local dollars to seek more federal loans, which they'll be able to repay. So that's an important source of funding for the train replacements. It was the largest RIF loan in history, $2.5 billion that went to Amtrak. And one of the reasons Amtrak was able to get that loan was because it repaid past RIF loans that it had taken out. So Amtrak's established a good financial record, something that it's going to grow from. Sort of end here in terms of the future of the corridor. Improvements on the corridor's infrastructure are going to be critical for the entire region's productivity, and it's got economic repercussions nationwide. We know that this region drives the country's economy. The future successes of the Northeast Corridor require expedited environmental testing so that building can start quicker and commuter service can be helped sooner. So environmental and streamlining processes are another focus for us, in addition to funding as well. So with that, I'll stop here. And again, I really want to commend this region, the delegation, as well as the governor's office. Again, thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the state of New Jersey.
Thank you very much. You know, when I'm listening, as I listen to you, I could only think of Sandy and the impact that Sandy had. If traditionally that had not happened, we'll be facing a whole different scenario today, but that unfortunately is not the case. But we appreciate very much the update on all the other areas impacted in the Northeast Corridor, which is so critical to our infrastructure, to our way of life, our economy in the area. So we thank you very much. And let me see, make sure there's questions from the members of the board. Any questions from anyone?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How are you mentioned connecting corridors, Harrisburg and Spite and Dival. How are those determined, and why such a short little connection to Spite and Dival from Penn Station?
Yeah, so those are, we call them, obviously feeder lines. So the states are partners in that, whether Spite and Dival, Metro North, State of New York, and for Pennsylvania DOT, and Amtrak as well. So there's a lot of planning that goes into those corridors, and Amtrak definitely looks at them and looks at ridership, planning, and all of that. But it's a long-term effort. But the primary driver is ridership, and the Harrisburg line, it's the Keystone Corridor there, is a huge feeder into the Northeast Corridor. So there's definitely opportunities. And then the other one that I sort of emphasized, but I'll emphasize again, is that Springfield, Massachusetts line that's going to run, that runs into Connecticut going north instead of along the coast. So Amtrak especially is definitely paying attention to those opportunities and looking for more.
Are there any questions from the audience? I see a gentleman here who has a question.
Are there going to be bikes on the new rail cars? I mean, places for bikes? Because I know Amtrak is putting those in. I think they put some in Chicago.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I bet Amtrak is looking at that. Just as another example of that, it's not exactly on point, but as an example of Amtrak looking for opportunities, they're, have pets now on the corridor that they allowed a few years ago and encourage that. But I'm not saying that's the same as bikes. I'm just saying that's an example that they definitely look for opportunities to increase ridership and give amenities.
Thank you. Anyone else, any other comment? Well, I want to thank you very much for your participation today. It really sets a lot of questions in our mind in terms of where we are from a region perspective. And again, you're always welcome. Thank you so much. And now the item number I is public participation. We now turn to the public participation of the meeting. As in the past, we would like to advise the members of the public that we have a 3 minutes time limit on comments. The light on the timer, which is by the desk, will go from green to yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining. When the red turns on, there's no longer any time left. We ask you to keep your comments within this allotted time if you can. Thank you very much. Any members of the public who would like to make some comments? Come up to the mic right up here. Go ahead, sir. Neil?
Chairman Estrada, Director Amin, Trustees. Good morning. You have copies of extended remarks. Last month, Senator Weinberg challenged Washington to come up with a plan to address the Armageddon that would result from loss of the Hudson rail tunnels. The senator is correct, given the stalemate over funding and the time to complete construction. We're a decade away from replacement tunnels coming online. But planning for this sort of disaster is something that the region can and must do for itself. A key part of that should be to form a regional bike grid. For successful models, we can look to cities that have invested heavily in cycling and reduced reliance on private cars and mass transit. The City of London invests $200 million per year in cycling, bike parking at transit hubs, bike share, and a network of superhighways connecting its outer boroughs to the central business district. In 2017, Transport for London performed a strategic analysis to provide a framework for future growth. And you have 8 maps to visualize the findings. For scale, London spans 600 square miles, which equals Union, Hudson, Essex, Bergen, and Passaic south of 287. These maps detail bike routes with heaviest current demand, where commuters will cycle if provided adequate connectors, areas projected to grow jobs and population, where investment has potential to reduce bike ped fatalities, where future bikeways may coincide with high-use bus routes, transit hubs which forecast high demand for bike parking, where investment can extend to access to transportation deserts, and at the end of this, top candidates for future study. The study also provides a roadmap for North Jersey. The challenges and opportunities are the same. The region could follow London's lead by having each county design a plan tailored to local needs. Counties that depend on bus, train, and ferry might prioritize access to transit hubs. Those with robust park systems may wish to connect them. Rural counties may wish to stimulate cycle tourism. Second, connect those grids to form a regional network. Focus on upgrading linchpin bridges to comply with national standards. These measures will broadly increase throughput and extend the useful life of existing architecture. They also follow U.S. DOT guidance to treat biking and walking the same as other modes of transit. Given this conformity, North Jersey could seek an appropriation from the Transportation Trust Fund to plan and build a London-style system. With the current matrix vulnerable to so many existential threats and so little time, it would be irresponsible not to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Appreciate it very much. All the members received a copy of Complete George that's on top of their desks. So please refer to it. Anyone else in the audience who would like to make any comments?
Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor. The NJTPA has promoted the idea of more dense transit-oriented development, and that is happening everywhere. Just last week was the astounding news that the Westfield Garden State Plaza Malls has plans to become a mixed-use town center as big box stores, Kmart, Toys R Us, Sears, et cetera, go bankrupt. As I take the 9 a.m., the last eastbound train from Denville to Bloomfield, I see that Tuaco is building new condos, denser residences, right next to Tuaco train station. Across from New Jersey Transit eliminated Great Notch train station are hundreds of units as the road is widened. Morristown is building more apartments right next to the rail line. Boundbrook, Bloomfield, Denville, and soon it is rumored even our neglected train station of Mount Tabor will have multi-units built next to our train station. Yet, there is no expanded transit occurring for these denser developments. Instead, the Morris line, as Kathy knows, has suffered 30% service cuts since 2006. The Boonton line has suffered cuts, 45% cuts. The train used to go to 115 eastbound, which is still not good, but now it's awful. Worse yet, the NJTPA, to my knowledge, is doing nothing to preserve the rail rights-of-way all over New Jersey outlined for future rail passenger service way back in 2001 by Jeff Warsh and Vision 2020. Meanwhile, ozone levels are beyond EPA recommendations. Auto addiction is the largest source of NJ greenhouse emissions. Highway deaths are increasing as people are forced to drive. And little by little, road widenings are proposed or taking place, like that proposed for Route 10, 2 miles from my house. When the Morris-Erie line, paralleling Route 10, could provide an alternate, NJTPA should take up its leadership position to get serious about New Jersey using its density and insisting rail rights-of-way to become the green transit state. To do this requires the following. Declare all rail rights-of-way preserved for rail, not just recreational bicycle trails to nowhere. Rail with trails is the goal. No road widenings even studied without consideration of green transit alternatives being expanded rail frequencies or the bicycle network that Neil's talked about. Sidings or restoration of rail on our myriad rail rights-of-way. Electrification of all rails and all future transit. Just 2 miles from the Westfield Garden State Plaza, John Bartlett will appreciate this, proposed redevelopment is the still stalled and long-planned rail restoration from Hawthorne to Patterson to Hackensack, which includes a rail station at Arlington. They could easily get to that and then get on the Cross-Passaic rail and also a little further is connection to the Pascack Valley rail line, which still suffers 5-hour gaps in service as 2 sidings long planned between River Edge and Montvale were never installed. We have 10 years before climate catastrophe, according to the IPCC. And even now, the International Energy Administration, a very establishment group, has declared that there is no way to meet climate goals without vastly expanding rail, the most energy-efficient transportation.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay. Oh, can I just say?
So.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the audience would like an opportunity to speak? Now that we have given everybody the opportunity, we thank you. At this time, item number J is the time and place of our next meeting. It's not going to be held here, folks. Don't get your bearings messed up. We're going to Union County, best county in the state of New Jersey. As so expressed by your chair here today. The NJTPA will be holding its July 8th, 2019, 10 o'clock in the morning. However, will be held, it's not in this conference room, it will be at the Union County Galloping Hill Golf Course in Kenilworth, New Jersey. Well-known place right off the Parkway. Please keep an eye for our details on the meeting. And remember, once again, it will not be held here. I do request that you come a little earlier, before 10 o'clock, so you'll have some coffee on us and maybe some Danish that will be available there. Don't come too hungry, but just, we'll have some coffee for you. That concludes our meeting today. May I call for an adjournment, please? Who wants to move it? Where's George? George is not- Hunter, they're moving. Second? And the second? Passaic seconds. Would you go through a roll call?
There's one thing we can always agree on.
All in favor of adjourning today, express by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month in Union County.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
We'll give it, make sure, these extra copies you have? Okay. Thank you.